All right. Hi, folks. Welcome and happy 4th of July if you're in the United States. So, of course, as soon as we go live, the dog starts barking. Go figure. How about that? So thank you all for joining us. And we just finished episode 265 of the fentanyl poisoning series. And would love to hear a little bit of feedback. I see that so far we only have two viewers here, but I believe any minute uh, it will pick up. That's my dream. That's my dream because I neglected to put the redirect in the premiere and didn't think about it until the premiere had already started, and then you can't go in and make changes. So the redirect wasn't there, and look, there's Brianna. Happy 4th of July to you, Brianna, and to everyone else who's joining us. So, how about a little bit of feedback about this story? We had the she did she did she was a fast talker. She had a lot that she wanted to say, a lot that she had clearly given a lot of thought to, and she was quite the investigator too. That was something that really stood out to me was how attentive to what she was to the facts and how she thought the facts through. Like the bit about how could he be sleeping in his truck when he loaned his truck to his friend? The contradictions and that kind of thing. I thought it was powerful. I don't know if you guys can hear that noise in the background or not. Bree, I had my ears on full throttle and I was able to keep up, but I'm a fast talker too. Okay. Her son wasn't such a fast talker. At least not yet. I bet it's something that he learns with time. He didn't have much to say during the interview, but he was fascinated by it all. He was very interested in the camera and how it worked and the whole setup that we had going on there. And so it was it was cool to have him there. And I think maybe he got just a little bit uncomfortable once we uh, once we started recording the interview. Only talked to him for a couple of minutes. Yeah, Ryder probably is the youngest storyteller yet, and I'm pretty sure we had a T-shirt for him. Pretty sure. Brianna, I was doing a little investigating in the background while she spoke, so not my full undivided attention. A little bit of investigating about the story. Did you learn things you want to share? Good question, huh? So clearly, the redirect being at the end of the premiere helps because we're only up at at 9 people in the audience. And we only have one like, and there's 9 people in the audience. Okay, folks, just you hit the little thumbs up thing right underneath this video window. It ought to be, down here somewhere. And just, or not. So who else is with us? Who else has something to share? Who else was watching the premiere? And are there any people in the group who might be connected with us on Facebook? Anyone who's been following the other series that we started, the series about cannabis induced psychosis? That has been an interesting beginning of a series because there's a lot of resistance among some audience members who rushed to defend cannabis. When Paula was speaking about the first time Caitlin got clean, and now it was to see her old daughter come back, it hit me in the feels. That's a cute phrase. My family used to beg me to stop so the old bee could become the. Yeah, I can totally see that too. That that kind of joy that would come from seeing the character qualities that you miss, the personality traits that you haven't seen in a long time. To see them again, that's got to be an awesome thing. And so, is there anyone? And Brenda, I know you've seen, and Brianna, I believe you're in the audience too. Who saw the cannabis story last night? There, it is. It's been interesting to see this evolution, this insane response to the cannabis stories. These, so many people react with this kind of no kind of reaction. It is it's kind of hilarious, but that's not appropriate. I know. When I was using, Brenda says, when I was using, I realized I had changed that much. I didn't realize I had changed that much. Now I am clean and I still just feel like me, but I'll say I am better. Well, thank you, Brianna. The cannabis story I thought was pretty powerful, and there is robbery. The post, the commenter who posted in Facebook, right? Yeah, I was really hoping to see him here, see him in the live chat, but it didn't happen. Good dialogue on the comments on the cannabis story. Yeah, a lot of dialogue, a lot of argument, and on Facebook, it's more substantial. There's one commenter on Facebook who is adamantly defending weed, and he keeps commenting with more and more statements. He also called me through Facebook Messenger and made an audio call to me, and we talked for, I want to say, about 40 minutes. But all of the posts, or maybe not all, but he's posted some really long comments, and they tend to refer back to natural medicine and all of that. But almost all of his posts, if not all of his posts, they were written by ChatGPT. So I don't know what to make of that. When you use ChatGPT for something at the end, if you use ChatGPT to write something, at the end of whatever it writes, it will ask if you want it reformatted or if you want it prepped for some other application, things like that. And and when he would post the messages that he had ChatGPT create, he would post those questions from ChatGPT too. So Rob said he would definitely be here. I think he has some good ideas, but his presentation is way too blunt and rough. Yeah, I don't think it's realistic. It's not realistic to think that weed is going to go away, at least not until the demand goes away. Back to that demand thing. And so the big thing that we can all focus on is understanding, awareness, that so many people have said, just there's been on Facebook, there's been so many comments from people who just said it's all lies, or this isn't true, or this doesn't happen, or there's a pre-existing condition. And there is research now, a lot, that and the research doesn't support those statements at all. And so over the next few weeks, we've got over a dozen more stories shot that we'll be publishing on our channel at a regular basis. Who was the guy last night who was solely focused on my Edgar? Edgar, right? Right. His name was Edgar. Edgar, are you with us? Are you with us today? He was on my last nerve. Edgar was his name. It is good to follow the money of Big Pharma, but not an awareness YouTube channel. Jeez. But it's okay to question the money, because money matters. Without money, we couldn't do this. We couldn't be doing all this content that we put together. We certainly uh, couldn't be doing this volume of content, and we certainly couldn't be doing this much. We couldn't be going to all of these places, and so uh, you know, not all of the locations are on this map anymore. I really need to update it. But to do all of those things, it costs money, and we're in this sweet spot where the revenue that comes from YouTube advertising makes the series sustainable, and it seems likely it's going to make the cannabis series sustainable, and it makes the addiction recovery series possible, and it makes the human trafficking series sustainable. And so the money is an annoying nuisance, but necessary. We wouldn't be able to just fund this ourselves without any sort of return that helps us make mortgage payments and car payments and helps us live. So Viola, glad you're here. So you watched the episode of Cannabis Psychosis. Yeah, yeah. So what do you think? That's first of of what will be many of over a dozen for sure. That's just where we're at right now, and yeah, so over a dozen stories so far, and next week we're going to be shooting stories in Portsmouth, Virginia, and I believe there'll be one or two stories there that we shoot. So so Viola, what did you think? It really opened my eyes. I hope CIP doesn't get as bad in the future as fentanyl has now. And Viola says I learned a lot. Holy cow! So did I. Seeing as I've seen all the interviews, many of them a couple of times now, and so one of the interviews, one of the like the either the third story or the fourth story, or maybe the fifth story is going to be a woman. Her name is Bryn Spetcher, and if you guys don't know who she is, you should Google her. She uh, she was in a cannabis induced psychotic state, and she stabbed her friend over 100 times. So she's one of our stories that is coming soon, and she was really wonderful to talk to. Sharp person. We also interviewed an emergency room physician and another doctor, uh, and victims and victims' families. Some users, some parents of users. A pretty diverse range for just 3 days of shooting. We shot over 20 interviews, and of those, some of them it's two interviews in one story or three interviews in one story or whatever. So that there's not a not a it having shot over 20 interviews doesn't mean there's going to be over 20 stories. Not really sure how many stories there'll be yet. But the emergency room physician was really interesting. She said that yeah, we see it every day. So, Brenda says I have to admit I have read several articles about Brent's story. I don't do well with anticipation, so I read ahead. Crystal says I'll have to go watch it. Yeah, you should see the first episode before the second episode comes out. The second episode premieres tomorrow. And the second episode, I think we have a yeah, we do. We have a trailer we can play here and let you guys see it. I think that some of the people in the room have already seen it. I know Brenda's seen it. Viola, you've probably seen it. But it's a story of uh, Navy veterans, two Navy veterans that are boyfriend and girlfriend, and they went to a dispensary. They were out of the Navy at that point and went to a dispensary as an idea to unwind is the way they described it. And they went home and smoked it, and his name is Javante. He he it put him into a psychotic state, and he shot his girlfriend and shot at her, hit her a couple of times, once in the wrist and once in the thigh, in the leg, like a glancing shot, a glaze kind of wound. But they'll tell all about that tomorrow when that story premieres. But one of the most entertaining things about this series is the passionate uh, that passionate defense of cannabis by some people. And so, like on our Facebook page, we've had some really adamant defenders say, let me just see if I can find a few things here. Uh, but hey, alcohol and opiates are just fine all over Texas. I don't understand what that means. So the post that we put on Facebook promoting the first episode, it said that someone said, "How about doing a series on the culture that made all these people start self-medicating?" Uh, that could be a good idea. I don't think he's sincere about it. Uh, the parents of addicted children talking them to rehab. What? Good grief. So it's really comical to read some of the comments. There's no such thing as cannabis induced psychosis when cannabis is used as sacred medicine. And that post is, if you were to print it, 3 or 4 paragraphs long. So I'm not reading that out loud. But at the bottom of it is a note from ChatGPT asking if you would like this adapted into a short speech, infographic, or social media post as well. So we're not really hearing from a person here. We're hearing from ChatGPT doing as it's told. Laughing my ass off. Y'all got too many old cowboys still, Texas. What do you even call a mustache Pete that's a cowboy? What? What does that mean? I don't know. I don't know how to respond to that because I don't have the slightest clue what that means. What this is just as dumb as reefer madness. Now, if you think about it, cannabis psychosis is just a more intellectual sounding way of saying reefer madness. Cannabis, reefer, psychosis, madness, kind of, but that doesn't mean it's not real. And there's a comment from Don Allen, very good. Also, bro has a 6 head. I don't know what that means. Let's see. Come on, there's got to be some other good ones here. Where's the proof that weed caused it? Like actual scientific proof. I'll wait. It says. And of course, there's not proof. There's not proof of much, particularly when it comes to substance use. There's evidence, but that's different from proof. There's evidence, substantial. In the case of cannabis-induced psychosis, substantial, overwhelming evidence that indicate that this is a real thing that happens far more often than a lot of people acknowledge. a lot of the people who support the use of cannabis will call it a panic attack. That's a term. That's a common term. But ultimately, a panic attack is really just a perhaps less severe psychotic episode. So they acknowledge it, they just give it a different name, which is weird. He wasn't smoking normal cannabis, he was smoking flock and spray packs. No. Well, let's see. So there's just you guys feel free to check out someone laughing my ass off. Still trying, been burning for 30 years, 20 plus daily. How does that how does it work that people think because they haven't had a negative experience, no one can? How stupid is that? How ridiculous is it to think that because you're an expert? Doesn't work that way. I know how to tell time. That doesn't mean I'm an expert on watches. That is so stupid. It breaks my heart for this country when I see these kinds of things. It's crazy. Dan Patrick is out next time. I promise you this. There'll be a lot of people doing it. I don't know what that means. You know, the people who made this are high. I suppose that's directed toward me and toward Texas Pictures. I'm from Texas. I'm a smoker, and I've been all my life. I can't find anything bad in it. God's plant been here since the beginning of time. Well, yeah, but it's not really God's plan anymore. It's much more potent than it was when it grew naturally. That naturally the THC content would be around 4%, and now there's a lot of products out there that are at 20%, just 5 times more, or higher, 30, 31. There's some vape products out there that go up as high as 90%, 95%. And so to say it sounds great to call it natural, to call it like this person said, God's plant. Uh, but that's not it. That's not accurate at all. It's genetically engineered. It is modified to be more productive, to have less CBD, have more THC. It's manipulated. So calling it natural just it just doesn't make sense. It's not consistent. I'm loving going through these. It's hilarious to me. Let me see what I can. I'm sure I missed some stuff here. Let me see. Goodness, yeah, I went rambling. I learned a lot. I agree with Brenda. All stuff keeps getting put with the marijuana. The problem, the potency will take many over the top. And it's not just stuff being put with marijuana, it's how the marijuana is grown, how it's cultivated, how it's fertilized, and how it's manipulated in a laboratory to be more potent. Manipulated in a laboratory. I have to admit, I've read several articles about Brand. Okay, we talked about that. I have to go watch it. Crystal, grab a new box of Kleenex. Mother does an amazing job of telling his story. Is Whitney. Whitney is the storyteller in the first Cannabis story. And Whitney was also the event organizer for us to come to Colorado. She's the one who found a location for us to shoot interviews in and facilitated the whole thing, helped find storytellers to come share their stories, and made all of that happen. And met some really wonderful people. Okay, so I don't think anyone in the Sackler family will grant you an interview. Yeah, probably not. That'd be a good time though. Pistol Pete is who he is referring to, who was or is an Oklahoman, not a Texan. All right. Hello, Julie. I had to buy a dispensary for a pinched nerve in my back that did not allow me to sit and dropped me to my knees in tears. Doctors here profile and assume everyone is an addict. Wow. Viola, we are not comical on this thread, people. We have compassion and are interested in the overwhelming evidence. Doctor wanted a urine. Julie says doctor wanted a urine test to make sure I wasn't on controlled substance before they would prescribe one. I told them no warrant, no urine test, and I went to a dispensary. That got me by. Okay. Julie, you're correct. Doctors went from giving opioids out like candy to withholding them from all but the very worst pain. Why can't the medical industry find a happy medium? Okay, I don't think it's really about the medical industry. It's about how they're managed. The medical industry started out giving it out freely, relatively freely, and that led to pill mills and doctor shopping. And that was a severe problem. So the government response, the only tool that they have is making laws, regulations. That's all they can do. And so that's what they did. And they put severe restrictions because of the abuse by physicians and patients. There is a culpability to the patient in the patient's actions too. Julie, way to go. I'm so proud of you for standing your ground. Brenda says the poppy is a plant too, and look at the damage it has caused and continues to cause on a daily basis. There you go. And if you don't know, the poppy plant is the whole opioid source other than synthetic opioids. Just so I am losing. Here we are. Okay, I understand. Oh goodness. But the posts. Holy cow! Some of the posts. Let me see. Some. Okay, someone posted. Finally, pure retardum. Someone posted. Texas pictures. Liar. That's the whole thing. Liar. And ultimately, we didn't say anything. And that was from someone named Glendon Michael Settles. Texas pictures. Liar. Ooh. So I did respond to that. I asked, is there anything more fact based to offer? And it looks like he replied, I don't explain anything to ignorant people. It's useless. Huh. So that is some of the people I'm dealing with these days. What a load of horse. Sam probably took some LSD or mushrooms. Of course, that would have showed up in the toxicology report. Holy cow, when the event was over, it was a crime scene. So that's really not thinking things out. Dude, I used to wake up and do dabs, GTFOH, lightweight, straight edge. Uh, what? I don't know what to do with that. Anthony Jonah Gentile says probably was spice and he thought it was weed. It was weed. We doesn't give you psychosis. That's a load of effing bull. Don't be putting lies on weed. So there's that. The worst anti-weed propaganda I've ever seen. Uh, Now remember, this is before the story was published. So this person is responding to the trailer, which was 4 minutes long. The worst anti-weed propaganda I've ever seen. He would have had to smoke over $1,000 worth of weed in about 30 minutes to even get anywhere close to a psychosis, which, not to mention, is physically impossible to do. Even if he was hitting concentrated marijuana, he would have passed out and took a nap before his brain got anywhere close. This is proof that you know nothing about what you pretend to know. His pockets are probably getting lined by anti-weed politicians. Nice house, Mr. Psychosis. I don't, yeah, so, huh. Never mind the fact the dude already looks mentally unstable, and in the picture, you guys chose to represent this show. Wow. Over 260 episodes of fentanyl stories, and nobody, even once, has ever said anything that rotten. Pretty sad. What else? Such BS. BS. F off, Texas. Propagandist BS. Texas Republicans, also known as traitors, live you for it, but still doesn't make it true. The boy had other issues big time. It's always including something underlying that exists already. Cannabis doesn't cause this. It's all the other crap they ingest. He lied. It wasn't cannabis, it was meth. Uh, wow. So, so there's a lot of just making up scenarios to suit this circumstance. So I see this one guy who keeps messaging me, and I so hate this Meta Business Suite thing. It's ridiculous. Okay, so anyway, let's get back to the people in the group. Ignorant, I can fix be learning stupid is something that some are stuck with forever. Told you, Glenn, I knew that this series would bring out some crazy stuff. I knew it. Brace yourself. Holy cow, it is like a ride. Really. The beauty of the crazy stuff is that it still means something's being accomplished. It indicates that there's some friction going on. And if there's friction going on, something is being accomplished. So it's a good thing. It's not a lot of convincing hardcore cannabis supporters, but there's some, and risk is there. Risk is here. Sup, Risk? Glad you're here. The meth comment has me rolling on the floor laughing. Obviously, the commenter has never experienced the garbage commonly referred to as meth. Yeah, commenters do that. They will talk as if they know more than they actually know. And I don't think there's really I don't think there's really any fixing that, at least not in short term. Much like the in general, weed supporters, cannabis users who feel the need to defend anything that is critical of weed, those kind of cannabis supporters, they certainly seem like they're users, but don't always say so. But here's something that I've noticed that that is consistent in the fentanyl poisoning series, and in the comments regarding this. In the fentanyl poisoning series, there is a lot of storytellers who will say that their loved ones' problems began with weed. And when they say something like that, what happens is members of the audience will immediately post comments on the story saying, don't go blaming the weed. It wasn't the weed. What about alcohol? Doing all kind of comments like that are in defense of cannabis and in defense of a material that a substance they use that that they believe in, and it's predictable. But here's what else is predictable about posts from cannabis use defenders. The posts that they make on Facebook and on YouTube are far, far more likely to contain misspelled words. Just a thing. It's predictable. When I say far more likely, there's no, we haven't done any research about it because who cares? But it feels like about 5 times more likely that when I see a cannabis defending comment, I don't look to see if there's a misspelled word. I look to see where it is. I just I expect it to be there because I've seen it that much. So anyway, Viola, you called it. I remember you warning the chat, but I never dreamed it would be this entertaining. Maybe a commenter with more than 2 brain cells will join us soon. Or, maybe 2 commenters with 1 brain cell each could get us there. So I seen a lady actually break down crying because she had to do urine test and couldn't do meth anymore. Hmm. Risk, bless her heart. How old was this lady? I asked because meth is very bad on the heart, especially once a person is over 40. She was late 30s at least. And Brenda says, on what platform are there words? Uh, I don't know. On what platform are there words spelled correctly? I don't know that there is one. If there is one, it would be one where people making comments are using speech to text. I looked at her like she was crazy. So yeah, so these comments, and there's comments on on the channel here and also on Facebook, and I haven't really looked at what's happening on TikTok today yet. We don't really pay that much attention to it. So Risk watched Rain's story last night. Kind of haunting, I think. What did you think about it? One of the things that really stood out to me about Rain's story is that she talks about, there's video of Rain talking about the dangers of illicit fentanyl. And if I remember correctly, that was just a few weeks before she died. Another thing about Rain's story that is, I don't know, it's really about commenters on Rain's story that a lot of people talk about. It's ridiculous that the hotel couldn't open the door, and yeah, clearly it is. But it seems like people are forgetting that the hotel has something on the door that is to make people inside feel secure. That little swing over lever thing that gets in there, or the flip out thing. It's like a secondary lock that can only be engaged from inside the room. And so that was probably the big barrier that was standing in the way. All hotels have something like that. Or well, probably not all, but most of them. I imagine ultimately not all hotels have color TV and internet and all that fancy stuff, but the hotel, it was probably that that secondary lock mechanism that's locked from the inside of the room only that that created the delay. But obviously they should have been more urgent about getting through. Hello, that one, Latina 66. I'm waiting so patiently to see our episodes from Kansas. Thank you so much for what you do. Can't thank you enough for the education on the dangers of these topics. Thank you, the Lone Latina 66. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's not the name that you gave me when I was in Kansas. But I can tell you where they are. They are some of the stories, not all of them. We shot more stories than we have editors. But some of the Kansas stories are already with editors, and they will be showing up in the fentanyl series very soon. Brenda is asking that one. Give us a little teaser of what your story's about. Ashlyn. Okay, gosh, I'd love to say, oh yeah, I think so, but I see the 66, and that makes me think you were born in 66, so that would make you uh, almost 60. And the mental image in my head about a Ashland was younger than that. So I don't know. Lost my dad to fentanyl in January. Okay, that's starting to ring bells. Yeah. Now see, Ashland, now it's another interview. People here have questions. This is a cool group. I don't know if you've been in this before, but we do have a cool group. The group is smaller than usual, and part of that could be because it's a holiday. Part of that could be because I neglected to put the redirect at the end of the premiere that happened an hour or so ago. But yeah, it's a very cool group of people here, and they will just pounce on questions and all of that. He had an addiction for 4 years, and he wrecked a car while driving due to an OD to fentanyl. This is my first time. Okay. Ashlyn, I'm so sorry for your loss. Okay, so Ashlyn, so you got a T-shirt and you got lifesavers, right? I would hope. So, what was the experience about doing? What was the experience like about doing the interview? Going through the interview process. We try to make the interview process easy, and the topic isn't easy, but the process is easy. I think he had an addiction to the pills, and he did the powder thing, not knowing it was the street version. Yeah, we hear stories like that quite a bit. Ashland says, "Thank you, Brenda. It was a long road, but glad he's no longer suffering." That's that's a real thing. I mean, that's a sad spot to be in, where that is a plus, but we hear quite a few stories where that's the case. Now we are coming up on an hour, and we are going to be wrapping it up pretty soon here because it is a holiday, and me and my wife are supposed to go somewhere. And she told me, I don't remember. Ashlyn, oh, I get so upset when I learn about people who didn't know they were consuming fentanyl. Whoever sold it to them should have told them it was laced with fentanyl. I am so sorry that happened to you. Sorry, just looking at messages. Somehow I got in this group text that just everybody just gets going and just keeps going and going. So it's just all day long, ping ping, and it's not for me really. It was an easy process with the interview, just a hard topic for sure. What made us get into overdose stories? Well, when we first started doing the fentanyl stories, we started learning a lot. And the reason we started doing them is because the DEA here in Houston hired us to do them. And as we learned more, we started seeing more and more value in making more stories like this. And so we just kept doing it. Brenda says, Ashley, my fentanyl addiction was so bad I don't even count the 10 years I did on natural opioids. Fentanyl is a beast on a different level, of a different kind. I can't wait to meet your dad in heaven. So, Kansas people, uh, we should start seeing some Kansas stories very soon. I would think in the next week or two. It's crazy. The story that we published today was shot in Florida. I think it was in March, so 4 months ago. I was the one where one of his dealers had unfortunately sold to multiple people who had the same fate as my dad. 22. All right. Yeah. Yeah, that is ringing a bell. And so that will likely be one that kind of moves to the front of our list. It could be an editor already has it. Our editors are all part time, and what happens is typically an editor makes the first pass, and then they send it back to me, and then I go through it again, and I'll fiddle with it a little bit because I I have my way, and I have a way that I want to see things, and or I get ideas that didn't occur to them. And there's been tons of times when the editor has gotten some idea that didn't occur to me. And so it works great to have two editors. Well, there's a good question, Brenda. You see, Ashley, it's like being interviewed again. I hope laws change here. His case was thrown out with no investigation. It's sad because there's messages showing everything. So, Ashlyn, do we have pictures from you? Whatever you were going to send us, do we have that stuff? That sometimes that really slows a project. 'Cause if we don't have the material, we don't typically start on it because we don't want to do the work twice. And if we don't get pictures, we're probably not going to want to publish it at all. So, uh, so just a thing, just checking. Yes, unfortunately, there's multiple ones that are makes me mad every day. Me too, for sure. Me too. Groovy. I just asked because I always ask. We probably have 20 or so stories that we never got pictures for over the last 2 years. Brenda says, Ashlyn, this is why we have to kill the stigma so John Q. Public doesn't say just another dead junkie. Yeah, stigma is a real thing, and it is a terrible thing. All right, folks. So it is time to wrap it up again. But thank you all for joining us for the premiere. We will have another premiere tomorrow. The premiere tomorrow is a story about cannabis induced psychosis. And there is a trailer that I think that most of you have seen. But if anyone has, here's what I'll do. I'm not going to play it again because that just seems a little much. It's over 4 minutes long. But I will share the link to the trailer. I believe I will. All right, here we go. Okay, so here is a link to the trailer for the second episode. right there in the chat. Episode 2. And it will premiere tomorrow. Let me see if I can see the time. It is scheduled for 2 p.m. Central Time tomorrow. And I hope you guys can join us. Happy Independence Day. And thank you all. Thank you all very much for being here. Let me see where I'm at here. There it is. All right. Thank you all for joining us. And we will talk to you soon. Remember, remember that we're always happy to hear from you guys. Well, sorry. Sorry, sometimes this technology just gets too complicated for me. What are you going to do? But happy 4th to everyone. And please remember, you can always reach out to us anytime. You can email us at info@texas-pictures.com. You can find us on Facebook under my name, Glenn Muse, and under Texas Pictures. We're also on TikTok, and you can get more information about us on our website. On our website, you'll find information about how to share your story, how to make a storytelling summit happen in your area. There's also a link to a page for Texas Pictures merchandise, which is kind of bizarre to me, but we got it. And you can find out more about us. There's also a mailing address and a phone number and all of that good stuff. So thank you very much for joining us, everyone. And you guys have a happy 4th of July.